This video is going to talk about multiplying fractions. When multiplying fractions, we're going to multiply across the numerator and across the denominators. In this first example, 2/3 times 4/7, 2 and 4 are the numerators, so we're going to multiply across and get 8. And 3 and 7 are the denominators, so we're going to multiply across and get 21. 8 over 21 is the answer to this multiplication problem. On our second example, we have a -5/8 times 3/4. Just like we did in the first problem, we're going to multiply across the top. -5 times 3 makes -15. And multiply across the bottom. 8 times 4 makes 32. When multiplying fractions, there are times when you can cancel out common factors between something in the numerator and something in the denominator. In our first example, we have 4/9 times 3/5. Factors of 4 include 2 and 2, and factors of 3 are 1 and 3. Well, factors of 9 in the bottom are also 3. So a 3 on top and a 3 from the bottom can cancel out. So I'm going to take a 3 divided by 3, you're left with 1, and a 9 divided by 3, and you're left with 3. So what I've done is I've canceled out a 3 from the top and canceled out a 3 from the bottom. So now when I multiply across, I get 4 over 15. Whereas, if I had not canceled out, I would have gotten 4 times 3, which is 12, over 9 times 5, which is 45, and I would have seen that 12 over 45 was my answer, but this is not a simplified fraction, because I can divide a 3 out of the numerator and the denominator, and I'll see that my answer will be 4 over 15. So this canceling from the top and the bottom is a method of simplifying our fraction before we multiply versus multiplying and then having to go through the process of simplifying our fraction. In our second example, 5/6 times -8 over 9. You'll notice the 6 and 8 are both even, so I can factor out a 2 out of both of those. So the 6 becomes a 3, and the 8 becomes a 4 whenever I cancel a 2 out of each term. So now when I multiply, 5 times -4 makes -20, and 3 times 9 makes 27. So my answer for this example is -20/27. Here's an example where we're multiplying mixed numbers. And now in order to multiply mixed numbers, we are first going to change them into improper fractions, then we're going to proceed as we did in the previous examples. So this first one, 3 and 3/4, in order to change this to an improper fraction, we're going to multiply 4 times 3, which is 12, add this 3 from the numerator, and that's 15 over 4. And we're going to multiply that by 3 and 1/5, which when we change 3 and 1/5 into an improper fraction, 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 is 16 over 5. So now I have my fractions. I'm going to cancel if possible. Now in this case I notice that 15 and 5 both share a 5. So I'm going to cancel out a 5 from both. When I do that, my 15 becomes a 3 and my 5 becomes a 1. Likewise, I can cancel a 4 from the 16 and the 4. When I do that, the 16 becomes a 4 and the 4 becomes a 1. Now I'm going to multiply straight across. 3 times 4 makes 12, and 1 times 1 makes 1. Notice in this case the denominator ends up being just 1. When that does happen, we can simplify our answer and say it's just 12, because when we have 1 as a denominator, we can ignore him and take out the fraction and just leave the numerator. One final example I would like to do is when you have a whole number multiplied by a mixed number. Well, like we did before, I'm going to take this mixed number and change them into an improper fraction. In this case, we're going to have 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. So as an improper fraction, this is going to be 5/3. So what do I do with my 6? Well, I can take 6 and just put it over a denominator of 1. This way he becomes a fraction. Because remember, the way the previous problem ended up, we had 12 over 1, which just became 12. So these are equivalents. So if we have a whole number, we can put it over 1 and make him into a fraction. Now we can continue as we did previously. A 6 and a 3 have a 3 in common. So I can cancel out a 3, and the 6 becomes a 2, and my 3 becomes 1. So 2 times 5 makes 10, and 1 times 1 makes 1. And again, when I have 1 in the denominator, I can ignore that denominator and say my answer is just 10.